Your dog watches you sleep because losing you is their oldest inherited fear. Most people think dogs sleep beside humans simply because beds feel warm, soft, and safe. But animal behavior specialists have noticed something far deeper hidden inside this nightly ritual of closeness and quiet observation. Long before dogs understood human words, they understood human presence. Survival once depended on remaining close to trusted pack members through darkness, storms, predators, and uncertain nights where separation often meant danger or death. Even now, modern dogs carry ancient neurological patterns shaped thousands of years before houses, collars, and living rooms existed. When your dog chooses your bed repeatedly, instinct and emotion begin blending together in surprisingly human ways. Researchers studying canine attachment discovered dogs experience measurable stress changes depending on proximity to familiar humans. Heart rate, cortisol levels, breathing patterns, and sleep quality often shift dramatically when trusted owners remain physically nearby during rest. What feels ordinary to you may feel emotionally enormous to your dog. While you drift into sleep thinking about tomorrow, your dog may already be subconsciously checking whether their safest emotional anchor still exists beside them. That is why some dogs refuse perfectly comfortable beds placed only feet away. It was never entirely about comfort. Something much older and more emotional keeps pulling them back toward your breathing, warmth, scent, and heartbeat. 5. Neuroscientists comparing canine and infant attachment behaviors discovered remarkable similarities between dogs and human children. 5. Secure attachment patterns appear strongest when physical closeness and predictable emotional safety remain consistently available throughout vulnerable states like sleep or illness. Dogs also process scent with astonishing emotional precision. Your natural body odor contains hormonal information connected to stress, mood, health, and familiarity. To your dog, sleeping beside you becomes an ongoing emotional conversation happening completely without words. Behavioral experts sometimes describe dogs as emotional observers disguised as animals. They constantly monitor movement, tone shifts, the 5 changes, facial tension, and routines. Nighttime simply removes distractions, the 5 making their emotional focus on you even more intense and personal. What surprises many owners is this behavior often increases during emotionally difficult periods. Dogs frequently become more physically attached during grief, loneliness, illness, anxiety, or major life transitions, almost as if they sense emotional instability before humans consciously recognize it. People often assume their dog sleeps beside them because they are spoiled or overly dependent. But dependency alone cannot explain why some dogs choose closeness even when larger spaces, cooler floors, 5, or quieter sleeping conditions remain available elsewhere. A dog sleeping against your legs may actually be performing an ancient protective instinct adapted into domestic life. In wild social groups, R5, physical contact during sleep reduced vulnerability and strengthened emotional trust between members responsible for protecting one another. To humans, sleeping is passive. To dogs, sleeping near someone trusted can feel like participation in a shared survival contract. Their nervous system relaxes more deeply because proximity signals safety, predictability, and emotional reassurance throughout vulnerable unconscious hours. This is why many dogs unconsciously position themselves facing doors, hallways, or windows while sleeping beside humans. They are resting, yet part of their attention remains lightly alert, balancing comfort with protect environmental awareness inherited through generations of evolution. Sometimes your dog presses their back directly against yours throughout the night. Many owners think this merely means affection, but canine behaviorists interpret this contact as trust, combined with mutual reassurance through sustained body warmth and physical certainty. Physical contact regulates emotional systems in mammals more powerfully than most people realize. Gentle pressure, familiar breathing rhythms, and synchronized rest patterns can reduce anxiety responses naturally, which explains why dogs often sleep more peacefully beside bonded humans. Interestingly, dogs rarely sleep deeply around people they distrust emotionally. They may remain nearby temporarily, but genuine relaxed sleep requires profound nervous system confidence. Your dog closes their eyes beside you because their brain believes danger becomes less likely there. When dogs dream beside humans, 5 subtle emotional synchronization may also occur. Studies observing sleeping dogs revealed breathing and movement patterns sometimes shift alongside their owners, suggesting an unusual degree of environmental and emotional attunement during shared rest. Many owners misunderstand clingy nighttime behavior as stubbornness or bad habits, but dogs cannot verbally explain emotional needs. Instead, they communicate through proximity, positioning, silence, and repetition, especially during nighttime when emotional instincts become strongest and least filtered. A dog following you into the bedroom every night may not fear darkness itself. More often, they fear emotional separation from the person their nervous system associates most strongly with stability, protection, familiarity, and emotional grounding within daily life. This becomes especially visible after traumatic experiences. Rescue dogs, abandoned dogs, or previously neglected dogs frequently develop powerful nighttime attachment behaviors because sleep represents vulnerability, and vulnerability feels terrifying without trusted companionship nearby during unconscious states. Some dogs gently place their paws across sleeping owners during the night. People usually interpret this as adorable affection. Yet behaviorally, it resembles reassurance checking, almost like confirming physically that the bond remains present, accessible, and emotionally secure. Dogs evolved beside humans for thousands of years through shared survival, not mere coexistence. Sleeping near humans historically increased warmth, protection, hunting coordination, and emotional predictability. Modern beds unknowingly preserve fragments of those ancient interdependent relationships every single night. And 5. There is also something deeply revealing about which person a dog chooses to sleep beside. Dogs usually select individuals whose emotional rhythms feel safest, calmest, or most predictably connected to their own internal emotional experiences and attachment patterns. Your dog notices things you hide from other humans. They detect subtle shifts in breathing, movement speed, voice tension, and routines. Sometimes they move closer during difficult periods because your emotional state quietly changes before your words ever acknowledge it. That sudden closeness after heartbreak, grief, exhaustion, or loneliness is rarely coincidence. Dogs respond strongly to emotional disruption because they evolved around human emotional environments. Your distress can subtly activate nurturing and protective attachment responses inside them automatically. People sometimes laugh when dogs insist on sleeping directly beside one specific person nightly. Yet attachment science suggests your dog may associate that individual with emotional regulation itself, almost like a living source of neurological calm and predictable comfort. This explains why dogs occasionally struggle sleeping alone after losing bonded humans. The absence creates genuine emotional disruption. 5. Their routines, scent environment, and attachment expectations suddenly disappear, leaving their nervous systems searching for missing emotional stability through restless behaviors. Some dogs sleep touching only your feet instead of curling against your chest. That small detail matters. Dogs express attachment differently, depending on personality, history, confidence levels, and protective instincts. Yet the emotional motivation often remains remarkably similar beneath those differences. Independent dogs still crave emotional closeness. They simply communicate it with subtler physical boundaries. Sleeping near your feet can represent trust without overwhelming vulnerability, balancing attachment with personal space in ways uniquely comfortable for that individual animal. Interestingly, dogs often reposition themselves repeatedly throughout the night after hearing owners move, cough, or change breathing patterns. Many people never notice this quiet monitoring behavior happening continuously while they remain asleep and emotionally unaware. To your dog, nighttime may feel less like separation from the world and more like shared existence inside a protected emotional territory. Their brain relaxes because the person they trust most remains physically reachable during vulnerable, unconscious hours. 5. There is another reason this behavior feels emotionally powerful to humans themselves. Shared sleep unconsciously activates bonding chemistry within people too. Oxytocin, emotional familiarity, and repetitive comfort patterns strengthen attachment on both sides of the relationship simultaneously. Over time, your dog becomes woven into emotional rituals your brain stops consciously recognizing. The sound of paws approaching bedtime, gentle breathing nearby, or warmth against your legs slowly transforms into psychological signals associated with safety and companionship. That is why absence feels strangely loud after years together. Humans often discover nighttime loneliness most intensely because familiar attachment patterns suddenly vanish from routines their nervous systems quietly depended upon every single evening without conscious awareness. Dogs may not understand human language perfectly. 5. But they understand emotional consistency with extraordinary accuracy. Sleeping beside you becomes a repeated declaration that your presence feels safer, calmer, or 5, and more emotionally trustworthy than sleeping anywhere else available to them. Many dogs also position themselves closest during moments when owners feel emotionally disconnected from the world. It almost appears intentional because, in many ways, attachment behavior actually is intentional within the emotional logic dogs naturally follow and prioritize daily. When your dog rests their head against you while sleeping, they're exposing vulnerable sensory organs and relaxing defensive awareness simultaneously. Among social animals, this level of physical vulnerability usually occurs only where genuine trust has already been deeply established. Humans often underestimate how emotionally observant dogs truly are because dogs communicate silently. But silence does not mean emotional simplicity. In many cases, dogs perceive emotional atmosphere more honestly than humans, distracted constantly by language, technology, and social performance. Your dog does not care whether you succeeded professionally today or appeared impressive socially. They respond instead to emotional presence. 5. Predictability, energy shifts, tone, touch, and the feeling of safety surrounding your existence inside shared daily routines. That may explain why dogs remain beside humans during illness, sadness, anxiety, or grief with such unusual persistence. They are not analyzing problems intellectually. They are responding emotionally to changes occurring within someone their nervous system recognizes as deeply bonded. Some scientists believe domesticated dogs developed extraordinary emotional synchronization abilities, specifically because cooperation with humans required sensitivity beyond simple obedience. Reading human emotional states accurately increased survival, social stability, 5, and mutual dependence over countless generations living together closely. So when your dog chooses your bed night after night, they may not simply want comfort. They may be participating in an ancient biological relationship built on protection, emotional regulation, trust, 5, observation, and silent companionship stretching across human history itself. And perhaps that explains why this bond feels strangely sacred sometimes. In darkness, without conversation or distractions, 2 completely different species rest peacefully together through nothing more than emotional trust developed slowly across repeated ordinary moments. You begin realizing your dog never viewed themselves as merely existing inside your home. Emotionally, they may see themselves as existing inside your life, your routines, your emotional landscape, and the spaces where your vulnerability quietly becomes visible. That realization changes something important. You stop seeing nighttime closeness as dependency and start recognizing it as emotional devotion expressed through instinct, attachment, and biological trust stronger than many people experience with other humans throughout entire lifetimes. Dogs cannot explain love philosophically. They express it behaviorally through consistency, proximity, patience, observation, and presence. Sleeping beside you nightly may actually be one of the deepest emotional commitments their species knows how to communicate naturally. Every evening your dog chooses your side again, despite having countless other sleeping options available. That repetition matters psychologically because repeated voluntary closeness reveals emotional preference, attachment security, 5, and genuine comfort impossible to force authentically over long periods. The beautiful part is your dog probably does not overthink any of this consciously. Their attachment exists honestly, instinctively, 5, and without performance. They simply feel safer emotionally when the person they love most remains close throughout vulnerable sleeping hours. Maybe that is why dogs calm human loneliness so effectively. They offer emotional presence without complicated expectations. They stay nearby, not because social rules require it, but because their nervous system continuously chooses connection again and again each night. Somewhere along the way, your dog memorized your breathing, movements, routines, emotional patterns, and nighttime habits. What feels ordinary to you became emotionally meaningful to them through thousands of quiet repetitions. Humans rarely stop long enough to notice. And while people often wonder whether dogs truly love humans deeply, 5. Their sleeping behavior may already answer the question more honestly than words ever could. Trust this complete rarely exists without profound emotional attachment underneath it. Tonight, when your dog curls beside you again, notice the deeper meaning hidden inside that small moment. 5. An animal carrying ancient instincts chose emotional closeness with you over every other possibility available within their world. For your dog, sleep is not merely rest. Beside you it becomes safety, connection, reassurance, and belonging wrapped together silently inside darkness where words disappear and only trust remains visible through quiet presence and peaceful. And if your dog sleeps beside you every night, maybe they have been telling you something beautiful all along. You are not simply their owner. To them, you are home. If this changed the way you see your dog tonight, stay connected for more hidden truths about the bond you share together.